Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agent Chat Live. If this is your first time watching, Agent Chat Live is a kind of casual interview show where I interview literary agents to help you get to know them a little bit better. I did want to announce, though, that the newest episode of Corey's Qualms and Quirks, my other podcast, came out today with middle grade author Adria Goetz. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go listen to that because it was a great conversation. And now we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest. Adria Goetz is a senior literary agent with Seattle-based Martin Literary and Media Management, specializing in picture books, middle grade, adult fiction, and graphic novels. She graduated from the University of Washington, as well as the Columbia Publishing course, and was selected as a 2019 Publishers Weekly Star Watch honoree. She was recently proud to represent The Ocean Calls by Tina Cho, which received 3-starred reviews, and you can find her website and social media and an Amazon list of books she's represented in the description right now. So go ahead and do that if you want. And welcome, Adria. Hello.
Hi. The Ocean Calls actually received 4-starred reviews.
Oh, gotta update
I got
that.
an email from Tina the other day that was like, you keep saying it was 3, but it was 4.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, we have some people watching. So Emily, Cheryl, Erica, Phyllis, Christiana, Henry. Hello, welcome.
Okay, so
All
my
right.
sister, my mom.
That's great. So my goal here is to help potential clients get to know you a little bit better. Viewers are welcome to drop questions in the comments, but I do want to say that I won't really be asking questions that like a Google search or like any agent can really answer. So things like word count or genre definition, stuff like that. Because I want to focus on getting to know you personally. I mean, professionally, not personally. And I also won't be asking what I like to call pre-queries. So when people ask like, oh, would you be interested in a book about mermaids in space or something like that? All right, so we're going to start with kind of an easy one. Oh, hello, we got a lot of people. Emily. Oh, Tina's there. Cassie, Shayna, DJ, Kaylee, Tom. Hello, everyone. All right, so easy question to start off. What categories and genres do you represent? And feel free to go into as much detail as you'd like.
Okay. So I represent picture books, middle grade, adult fiction, graphic novels for any ages. Picture books by author illustrators are really my sweet spot and my specialty, so that's what I focus on. I'm open to most genres. I don't do a whole lot of sci-fi or high fantasy. I don't do space operas, but I would do mermaids. And yeah, for adult fiction, I'm kind of looking more for rom-coms, thrillers, and like Reese Witherspoon type book club fiction. But for picture books and middle grade, I'm open to kind of anything. And even though I'm closed to submissions right now, I like to tell people, like, when in doubt, just send it to me, because I love reviewing things, and sometimes I'll fall in love with something that I don't expect to. So when in doubt, send it my way.
Awesome. You have a wide range of genres.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear any noises, it's probably some cats. Just FYI, everyone. All right. So why did you get into agenting?
Mm-hmm. Well, I decided in high school that I wanted to work in publishing. I thought that I wanted to be an editor, but then I went to college and I got an internship at a literary agency, the agency that I'm still at, and I just saw the close relationship the agents had with their clients. I saw the heart and creativity that went into editing projects, and the strategic side of playing matchmaker between editor and project, and I liked all of that. And then I just really liked that it was a job that I could do from Washington State, where I'm already based, because the type of editorial job I would have wanted would have been, what only exists in New York. And I think I'm just too much of a wimp to live there long term. I just love being in Washington. I love being close to my sisters and my family and my husband's family. And also we have mountains, we have the ocean, we have trees. The air here smells so fresh. And so I just was excited that it was a job in publishing that I could do outside of the New York context.
Yeah. All right. I speak to a lot of agents who said that they originally thought they wanted to be editors and then they found out about agency.
Yep.
Erica has a clarification kind of on your wish list. Does that mean that you don't take on any author-only picture book writers?
No, I do. I have lots of author-only clients. Just right now, the area that I'm looking to build my list the most is in that author-illustrator space. That's where I've had the most success. But I'm open to anything. I'm okay with getting swept off my feet.
All right. All right. So this question is a little bit of a caveat because I find that if I don't, then people are too humble. So I'm going to give you a chance to brag about yourself. So please take full advantage of it. If someone is thinking about querying you and your wish list lines up with their work, why should someone query you? Why would you make a good agent?
Okay. So what I've noticed about myself as an agent is that I have big sister energy. I come from a family of 4 girls and I'm the second oldest. And I think in a lot of ways, I treat my clients the same way that I treat my sisters, meaning I'm very protective of them. I adore them. I want what's best for them. I try to encourage them. I'm not afraid to be honest with them or nudge them toward growth. And I want them to feel confident in expressing their concerns. And also I tell them everything, both my sisters and my clients. So I'm very transparent as an agent. So when we go out on submission, I have a submission spreadsheet where they see the list of publishers that we're out to, which imprints they belong to, which editors. They see the date that I sent the submission, the date that I followed up, the date that I sent a second follow-up. It's alphabetized, it's color-coded. Usually I just copy and paste what an editor says in their response to submissions. So they can just see straight from the horse's mouth what they said about the project. And I think a lot of agents are this transparent. It's just very important to me that my clients feel like they're fully in the loop. But I also tell my clients right after we go on submission, I'm like, okay, do not spend all day staring at this spreadsheet. It's just going to make you anxious. If anything exciting happens, you will hear it directly from me. And before I log it onto the spreadsheet, I'm going to tell you first. So in conclusion, I have big sister energy, and I think that that's good for an agent to have.
All right. Looks like we have some of your clients in the comments. We stand big sister energy, not afraid to scare our bad boyfriends away.
That's true. There are stories.
She is the best agent. All right. All right. So we're going to take some questions from the audience because we have a couple before we move on to my next question. Can you talk about a time a query came across your desk that you didn't think you'd like, but then absolutely fell in love with? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, let me think.
Yeah, it's very specific scenario.
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, I don't do a whole lot of sci-fi, but I had a sci-fi picture book cross my desk, which was very exciting to me because there aren't a lot of them out there. It's kind of I don't know, it hasn't been done a lot. And so that's not something I would normally be, I don't know, excited about, but I was queried with a project called When I Was Your Age, and it's about this grandma and this grandson, and they live on another planet. And the grandma is reminiscing about when I was your age living on Earth. So it's kind of a little bit apocalyptic, but I just thought it was such a unique premise, and the illustrations were so darling, and so I fell in love with that when normally I wouldn't be a sci-fi person. So
cool. All right. Eileen asked, you said you are currently closed to submissions. Do you have a rough idea of when you might open again?
Yeah, I've been getting emails and DMs daily since I closed. And listen, like I only closed because I had a surgery this summer and I took a medical leave and I just needed to take a breather. So I was out of the office for 5 weeks and I'm still very much catching up from that. So once I'm caught up, I will open back up. I'm hoping it will be soon. I'm hoping it will be or end of the month or early September, because I miss them too. I love, waking up every morning and checking my email and seeing what the magical elves sent me overnight. So I promise it will be soon.
All right. Meadow asked, what is your favorite middle grade novel that you've read in the past year, or favorite middle grade author?
Ooh, this is kind of a cop out, but it's a client book. I'm sorry to be self-promo-y, but my client Jeezy Schmidt wrote a book called No Ordinary Thing that published last fall, kind of right in the middle of the pandemic. And it's about a boy who finds this magical snow globe, and every time he shakes it, he's transported into the past. And the writing is so good. The concept is so fun. It has multiple timelines. And so I really love that. As far as my favorite YA author, probably Leslie Walton, just because she wrote my favorite book of all time, which is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender. I've read that book multiple times. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see what she writes next.
All right. I haven't read that one. I'll have to check it out. All right. We'll answer a couple of my questions and we'll come back to the comments. A lot of times when this question is asked, I know you've seen the show before, so I think you know what I'm going to ask. But a lot of times when this question is asked, the question is asked like, if you had a magic wand, what would you change about the industry? But I mean, we don't have magic wands as much as I wish they were. They're not real. So let's say realistically, but also pie in the sky, if you were like the CEO of like Random House, Penguin, Simon Schuster, whoever, Hachette, all of them, which they're going to combine anytime now. What would you try to change about the industry if you had that ability?
Oh my gosh. Hands down, I would move publishing outside of New York City. There's so much talent outside of the New York City bubble, and those who can afford to live there. So yeah, if I was a CEO, that would be a bold move, but I would do it.
Yeah, I've like kind of fantasized about publishing moving somewhere like basically having just kind of its own city. Like,
yeah, maybe like, upstate Vermont or Maine or somewhere pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. So if you sign a client, what can they expect after that? You talked a little bit about it, but what does your process normally look like? And then what kind of communication style do you have?
So once we sign together, we focus on getting the project whipped into shape. I'm, definitely consider myself an editorial agent. I feel like most people are these days. So I'll begin with big picture notes. So anything that I feel needs to be changed from a bird's eye view, basically. And usually those are edits that we talk about on the intra-phone call. Because I don't want anyone to be like, wait, what? I'm not clicking with this editorial vision. Yeah. So I usually run those big picture edits by them on that first call. But I'll send them those notes, like reiterating what we talked about and giving some big picture thoughts. And then I'll go back through and do line edits once they've had a chance to revise. Usually there are a few rounds of line edits, lots of volleying back and forth. For novels, I'll usually only go through it 2 or 3 times because it's so time intensive. And usually because I only sign novelists if I feel that they're very polished writers. But for picture books, we'll just keep going through it until we've got it. We'll go back and forth, a dozen times or however many times it needs. And then throughout this process, I'm assembling a sub list, I'm writing a pitch letter, I'm putting together any other submission materials that we need that are supplementary. And I also want my clients to be involved in this process. So I'll ask them to do comp title research as well. I'll ask them if there are specific publishers or editors that they want me to add to the sub list. And then we'll take the project out, and I'll send them a link to the spreadsheet, begin a submission updates email thread that usually begins with a pep talk where I'm like, okay, hey, we're out on submission. Here's the plan. Here's what I'm going to follow up. Buckle up for probably a long ride. Please take care of your mental health. Please do not stare at the spreadsheet. And then we just wait to see what happens.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually out on submission for the first time because my first book, we had an offer in hand when I saw my agent, and then we sold the second book on spec. And so even though I have 2 books published, it's like new being on top for me. And so if anyone wants to send me like pictures of their puppies on Twitter, that would be fun.
And writing a book on spec is stressful too.
Yeah, especially with the timeline I have.
Yeah.
All right. Casey asks, can you recommend a resource for those who are brand new to writing?
Oh, just okay. My knee-jerk basic advice is just to get plugged into SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. They will point you in the right direction. They will take you under their loving wing and teach you the things that you need to know. So that's my tip.
All right, cool. And just a self promo here. My podcast, Queries, Qualms, and Quirks, which is also on my YouTube channel. I talk to a different author every week about their journey from when they first started getting interested in writing to the day of publication. So you can find out a lot of stuff there too. All right. Erica asked, do you have strong feelings about picture book length?
I mean, for fiction, I usually want my clients to keep it snappy. So usually fiction picture books are under 800. 500 is like the golden word count, but I'll let them go a little bit longer if it's something that's needed. Like I had a client who wrote like a lyrical book, and that you can get away with a longer word count with that. Mm-hmm. For nonfiction, if you were doing a picture book biography or something, I mean, you can go up to like 2,000 words, 2,500 words. But for fiction, I try to keep it under 800.
All right. Kaylee asked, how does a writer impress you in a query or manuscript?
Well, in a query, I think I'm always impressed when the pitch sounds like the tone of the book. Like you somehow captured, if it's a magical story, that the pitch has a magical feel. If it's funny, the pitch is funny. I also, in a query, want to see the basics. I want to see, the category, the genre, the word count, comp titles, the basics. How to impress me on the manuscript, it just needs to be good writing and a saleable concept and something that excites me. I don't know how to sum it up better than that.
Yeah. Well, we have several people supporting your move to Maine. You're moving publishing to Maine.
Let's do it, you guys. I'll live in a lighthouse and be a lighthouse keeper. That's where I'll live.
Excellent. All right, Christiana, sorry. Do you have a particular time period of historical fiction that you especially love?
Oh, Oh gosh, I would say I'm not into ancient history as much, but I love turn of the century through like the 80s, really. Trying to think. I know some people are like the 80s. That's
Yeah.
I love World War II. I love the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression. I'm fascinated by history in general, so I'm open to anything.
Nice. All right, so we're going to take one more question from the comments and go back to my questions. What is your favorite way to decompress after a long day of agenting?
Right now, it's like a glass of wine and scrolling through TikTok for 3 hours. Snuggling with my cats, one of whom is screaming right now. And I'm a big bath person. I love a good bath.
Nice. I just bought a bath bomb that I am like trying to figure out time that I can use it.
Yeah, you gotta savor it.
All right. So this is the quick round. These are just fun questions that I like asking people. So the first one actually comes from a little bit of a history. When I was trying to come up with the name for the series, I am not good at coming up with names or titles of anything. I've never titled a book. And I had asked my Patreon supporters, and Danny, he had changed his name. Danny was suggested snack time with an agent, which I really liked because I thought it was like casual and fun. But then I thought maybe it would imply that it was only for like kidlit stuff. So I didn't go with it. But this question,
everybody likes to snack.
Well, yeah. So this question stuck around from that. And the question is, what is your favorite snack?
Okay, so if I have a savory craving, then it is Pringles, any flavor, but I particularly enjoy the pizza flavor. Very refined, I know.
Yeah.
And then if I'm having a sweet craving, then Ferrero Rochers.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool. What is your preferred caffeine source?
Coffee. My current Starbucks drink is an iced chai with brown sugar syrup and oat milk.
Wow.
Which my little sister told me about this drink. She sent me Marco Polo, and she was like, "Look, I know that ordering complicated drinks makes you anxious, but you have to try this." And so I did, and it tastes like a cinnamon roll. It's very, very good.
All right, cool. Is there a word that you irrationally hate?
I hate the word pus, but I don't think that's irrational.
It's good. Good answer. All right. Is there any person, alive or dead, fictional or real, that you would like to read a memoir from?
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, she'll write a memoir someday, and the day that it publishes, I will take the day off from work and just sit and read it straight through with no breaks.
Right. Good. And who is your favorite superhero?
So I watched WandaVision with my husband and absolutely fell in love with Wanda Maximoff, and just related to her character, which is maybe a dark thing to say. And so the Scarlet Witch is my favorite, I would say. I haven't seen any of the other like movies that character is in, so I probably should. I don't, but yeah, I'm going as her for Halloween this year. I'm going as her 70s.
Oh, cool.
70s self.
Very cool. All right. Speaking of your aesthetic right now is very like John William Waterhouse. I love it with the wallpaper.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I have a John William Waterhouse painting in my dining room.
That's so good. All right. My comments jumped a little bit. So okay, there it is. Letitia asks, do you take graphic novel queries that are script only?
I mean, I'm happy to take a look. It's probably not something I would be excited to sign. I think it'd be one thing if it was a pre-existing client who wrote a graphic novel script, but I don't know. I'm open to taking a look. It's possible.
All right. Henry asked, how do you feel about creative nonfiction picture books?
Yeah, I'm open to it. I would say nonfiction is not my sweet spot, but I'm open to it.
All right. I'm just now seeing all the comments related to your quick answer questions. Emily said that Starbucks drink is the best. Savannah said, yes, puss is really a gross word. And Emily said, yes, Taylor Swift. All right. Okay. So it looks like I got through all the questions in the comments. If I missed yours, go ahead and ask it again because I missed it. So what is your single best query letter tip?
Well, like I said earlier, I would say don't forget the basics. But a tip that I like to give a lot is consider your subject line. It's kind of a boring but basic thing. And it's great to think about because oftentimes when the first impression that an agent has of a query is what they see pop up on their phone. Because I get notifications every time I get an email. And, I'll look down and see like the subject line will be like query or submission or picture book submission, middle grade submission. And it's like, okay, cool. But I remember I got a query that the subject line was middle grade fantasy, the Library of Curiosities. And I was like, that sounds very charming and interesting. And then it just immediately shot to the top of my reading list because I was so intrigued by the title. So just something to think about.
Yeah. That's like when I get an email from Netflix, it's like, this may interest you. And it's some like fluffy fantasy sounding thing. I'm like, yes, okay, I'll click on that. What is your favorite thing about being a literary agent?
Gosh, there's so much. I really value that I get to exercise creativity on a daily basis. Because I've had jobs where I haven't been able to be creative and it is not good for me. So I like that I get to, weigh in on art and on story structure. That is really fulfilling. And also just the moment of holding a book and seeing a book in the flesh for the first time, that just does not get old. It's still a little surreal to me to be like, my client has worked like on this book for so long, and she birthed it into the world. I've heard literary agents describe themselves as doulas. Like we don't do the hard work of birthing it, but we're holding your hand and coaching you through it. And so getting to hold that little book baby for the first time is such an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Kind of fun question. Do you have any good literary names for a cat or a dog?
So I'm going to give a shout out to my mom's cat. She has a cat named Lucy Maud, named after L.M. Montgomery. And so I think that is super cute. And Lucy's mom's name is Louisa, after Louisa May Alcott. So that's another great name.
That was good. Awesome. Erica asked, if you decide to request more picture book manuscripts after a query, how many do you typically ask for?
I'm trying to think. It's maybe like 3.
All right. Oh, things are jumping again. Sherry asked if you represent Christian-based manuscripts and mainstream manuscripts.
Yes, I do. I work in both markets, and I have clients who write for both markets.
Cool. Yeah, I do know. I don't know too much about the Christian market, but I do know it's kind of like it's like a little bit separate from mainstream. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Katerina asks, what is an agenting memory that you'll never forget?
Oh gosh, there are just so many. I'll just say the first one that comes to mind. I remember, so I had this idea when I first started agenting for a coffee table book. It's all about the anatomy of magical creatures and like, how mermaids have babies and how vampires digest blood and stuff like that. And I had this like vision for it, and I wanted it to look like basically like a journal that you stumbled upon of the scientist who was studying all these creatures and taking notes and stuff. And then I was, pretty fresh out of college. And so I asked one of my college friends if she would write it. And then we found a local illustrator to do some sample illustrations. So the moment that it sold, or the moment that we got our first offer on it, I remember my dad was over, and he was helping my husband do yard work, and I like ran outside barefoot, which I shouldn't have because we have a bunch of holly trees in our yard and there are prickly leaves everywhere. But I was like, I just got this offer, and I was like so excited, and really, yeah. So that was a really exciting moment because it felt like my brainchild that I convinced people to create, and so that was really special when it actually sold.
Awesome. Very cool. I remember checking out a book when I was doing some research for a book that was like an encyclopedia of dragons, and it was about dragon myths from all over the world. And the person I was dating at the time was like, dragons aren't real, right? And I was like, we're not together anymore. So I'm like, yeah, they are. All right. So I know some agents have strong feelings about this. Some agents do not care. So I'll go ahead and ask you, in the query letter, should the pitch or the book info, like category, word count, etc., come first?
I don't mind it either way. My preference would be the pitch the book info comes first. So I like seeing a first paragraph that has all of the stats and then a quick little sentence long pitch before you go into the full pitch, because that just immediately grounds me in the project, and so I know what's going on. But I'm not gonna pass on a query because they didn't structure it that way.
Yeah. All right. Tom and Suzanne ask, are you interested in getting queries for picture book series?
My preference is no. Because when I see a series, I think, well, buddy, I don't know if that's, how practical or realistic that is to have that expectation going into things. So yeah, I just like to take things one project at a time.
Is it like, I don't know much about picture book market, but I know like for novels, we often say, standalone with series potential. Is that kind of like the same in picture book, or is it different?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a publisher often wants to see how a picture book does in the market before they commit to doing a sequel. So yeah, we just like to keep it breezy, do things one book at a time.
Yeah. All right. So Laura asked a question that I already asked. So once we're done, go back and rewind about 10 minutes and you'll get to that. It's what's your favorite part about being a literary agent? Cassie said, this has been so delightful. I wish we could all go out for coffee and continue this. Me too. I miss chatting with people about publishing for a long time. That's why I started all my podcasts and shows, I think. All right. So this is probably going to be the last question, unless we have a good question pop up in a minute. What are the last couple of books that you read and really enjoyed? Published books, obviously, so people can check them out.
So these aren't like lesser known ones. So sorry, but they're the first ones that come to mind. So for picture books, I loved Outside Inside by Lei Win Pham. It was just such a beautiful tribute to this pandemic experience. And I put off reading it for a couple months because I was like, I don't want to read a book about COVID. But then I read it and then I just cried at how perfect it was. It's so beautifully written and illustrated. So that's just a great picture book. And And then I'm almost finished reading Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who's one of my favorite authors. And it is very, very good. So
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. All right. We had a couple questions pop up, so I'll ask those. DJ asked, are you looking for anything specific in the Christian marketplace?
I think just in general, books that will appeal to this generation's Christian parents, you know, and the values that are important to this generation's parents, more of a focus on social justice and kindness and empathy, and definitely not just straightforward Bible stories. That is impossible to sell. So yeah, that's, I mean, maybe not super specific, but hopefully that helps.
All right. Lily has a question that's interesting. Is Greek mythology dead in publishing?
You know, the honest answer here is I don't know. Because
well, it's funny because like we had that wave, well, especially in YA. YA is the market I know the most, so that's what I talk about. But we had that wave like 10 years ago ish, 8 to 10 years ago, that was like huge in Greek mythology. And then it kind of died for a while, but now lore has been on the bestseller list for like so long, and that's just all kinds of Greek mythology. I just listened to it recently, so
yeah,
I feel like
I think, oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, I feel like as soon as you say something is dead, then it revives itself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always room for a really fresh perspective, a really unique hook on something. I think like obviously there's a lot of interest right now in other mythologies that we haven't heard, which is really exciting. I have a client's book that comes out this fall called The Dreamweavers that incorporates Chinese mythology and these magical mooncakes and the jade rabbit, which I'd never heard about the jade rabbit before, but it's a creature that you see in a lot of Chinese folktales. And I don't know, I just think we're all very excited by these new mythologies that we're learning about. So yeah, but I think there's always room for a fresh hot take.
Yeah. All right, and this is going to be our last question. I think it's a great one to end on too. Are there any publishing trends that you're seeing that you'd like to share?
There's a trend that everyone is fatigued and cranky. That's the main trend.
I've seen a lot of agents recently talking about, maybe you can talk a little bit about it, about the breaking down of advances into more payments.
Oh gosh, yes.
Which is not a great trend.
Yes. I mean, that is not a great trend. Yeah. So it used to be that a publisher would just pay you a lump sum of money and that was your advance. And then it became standard to have a 2-pronged payout schedule. And then it became standard for a 3-pronged payout schedule. And now we're seeing publishers, move toward 4-pronged, 5-pronged payout structure, which is just wild and chaotic.
What's the milestone for the 5th one?
Oh my gosh, publishers are pushing for 1 year after publication.
That's not advance.
Yeah, right? Correct. Yes. And a bunch of publishers are pushing for an on-pub payment, which is also stressful and problematic. Or it's stressful because right now with the pandemic, pub dates get pushed out and they get moved around, and so people don't know, when their next paycheck is coming, and it's stressful. So.
Yeah, I know one author who, with a relatively big publisher, her publication date got pushed like a week before what it was supposed to be. So it was like really kind of last minute for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is about time. Adria, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me and answering everyone's questions. Thank you all so much for joining us and asking such great questions. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. If you're listening on the podcast, appreciate you there as well. You can find more information about Adria in the description down below, as well as you can find a link to my Patreon. So if you'd like to support this and some of the things I do, you can do that there. And I think that is everything. So everyone stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.